Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new episode on my lovely BMW X5. So my relationship with this car has been up and down, to say the least. In the last episode we managed to work out that the engine ECU had filled itself full of water. We took those ECUs that we found in the back and we were going to see if we could get those cloned to basically take the data off the one on the car and put that onto one of those, and then fingers crossed it would start. Those ECUs were the wrong part numbers and we weren't able to actually use those. So I purchased another second-hand ECU. I've had a couple of people look at that and try and pull the data off, which apparently has not been easy for them because of the water damage on the original ECU. So I have been back and forth a number of times looking at this car, trying to see if that would sort it, but unfortunately it hasn't, and I've then left it for a period while I've been getting on with other vehicles. So I'm back today to hopefully see if I can do something with this car to get it running, fingers crossed. I did also, within the ownership of this car, manage to lose the keys as well, which is fantastic. So yeah, I've had to have some new keys made for it as well. So basically the last point that we got to with this car was that we plugged in the ECU, we'd got those keys that we'd had made, so they were working, the car was cranking, but the engine ECU wasn't showing when we were doing a full diagnostic scan. When I did manage to go into various points on it, it looked as if the VIN number was missing from the ECU. So I've brought some tools with me today that I've been kindly lent to see if I can write to the engine ECU and put the VIN number in, and if somehow I can work some magic and get this thing started. That would be fantastic, and then we can obviously look at going from there. It's looking pretty sad. So what I'm going to do now is look at popping the ECUs onto the car, which is the engine ECU and the immobiliser. Then I'm going to put a battery on the car, connect up the battery support system, which I've got with me as well, and then we can look at code reading the car and seeing if we can, as I say, make this thing work. I can't remember if I mentioned in the last video or not, but my thought is that the reason the ECU filled up with water was because all of this scuttle panel was left off. I did look online and it does appear to be quite a common problem anyway, but I think that certainly hasn't helped. I have also got all the new genuine pins to go into the plugs, which I will replace at a later date. The purpose of today, as I say, is just to try and see if I can get the car running first. But I do want to replace those pins because in the future I don't want to have any issues with the corrosion in those pins. So it's just in this female plug here. Replace all those connectors, so we can look at doing that later. Engine ECU just pops into this, pushes into this box, sorry, and then it's just got some plastic clips that hold it in. So that's that in place for the minute. Now I'll move on to the immobiliser ECU, and that is just tucked up underneath the dashboard. So I won't film that one, but I'll just plug that in. There's just, I think, a couple of plugs that plug into that, and then it just tucks up and again clips in to the bottom of the dash there with two plastic clips. That's all now plugged in. As I say, it just tucks up under here. These are the new keys that we've had made. We're now going to pop the battery on. Get that on. I have had this battery on charge as well, so hopefully that's got plenty of juice in it, but we will be putting a supporting tool on there. Just using this battery for the moment. If I can get the car running at a later date, I'll look at putting a bigger battery on this because this is a little bit small for this particular car. This is our battery support device. So this is just going to maintain a steady, constant voltage for the battery. This is really important for when you're doing any sort of programming work, to keep that battery voltage at a nice stable level. I'm told that with the battery chargers, when the vehicle fluctuates and certain things are turned on and off through the programming, that can, with a battery charger, you obviously get up and down voltages, and that can really upset all the ECUs and cause you all sorts of havoc on some of the programs, like the software programs as well. If you haven't got a good constant voltage, that can actually upset some of the programming tools themselves. So with this tool here, that just allows you to keep a nice steady voltage. Just plug it on the same way that you plug a battery charger on, and then you just hook it up to the mains. So that's what I'm going to look to do now. It is showing 12.5 volts, but that's because obviously that's just coming off the battery, and you've just got a kettle plug on the end here. This tool here has got a built-in fan and all bits and pieces on there. I don't know too much about those. That's now all on and in place, and hopefully you can see on the top left there, that's just maintaining the voltage there at 14.3. It's a nice steady voltage. I'm now going to hook the diagnostic machine up to the car. No, it's not those keys, it's these other keys that I've got. Try one of these. Okay, so I've got a quick update for you. Basically, I wasn't able to get the car to recognise the keys a moment ago for some reason. So I've taken the CAS module, immobiliser module, back out, and just, there's like a ribbon that goes up to the key reader, and I can see that there's a wire damaged in that. So I've just moved that around slightly, and now I've managed to get ignition on the vehicle. Because I couldn't get ignition, I wasn't able to code read the vehicle with the top-down scanner. Also tried the BMW software, and I wasn't able to get that to code either, or to read, sorry. So now that I've managed to get ignition, we can try again and see if I can figure that out. So yeah, that's good. But what I will do is I'll just show you that the car does, or should, crank, but then for some reason it just won't fire because we've got the immobiliser and engine ECU issues. But I could just take you back to where we sort of were some time ago when we last looked at the car. So as you can see there, it does crank. I don't want to do that too much because I don't want to damage the battery support tool. That's for supporting, that's not obviously for then when we're cranking the car. So I'm just going to go back onto the scan tool here, see if I can figure out what's going on. Before I go back on this one though, I might just jump back on the top don and see if I can write to the ECU. As I mentioned, the VIN number was not coming up in that engine ECU. I did try and do it a moment ago, but it wouldn't allow me into the ECU, and because it can't see it on the control unit tree, I don't know if this tool will allow me to then enter the ECU number. I'll give that a go and jump back into the video in a minute once I've got that one set up and this one disconnected. One other thing that's really important to mention as well when you are doing any of the diagnostic stuff and the programming and so on with the battery support stuff, it's just as important to make sure that your laptop battery's got enough juice in it as well. So if we do end up doing any programming, I'll probably run an extension lead and a charger to the laptop, just so we cover that. Right, let's rev this back up. Let's see if you can, hopefully you can see that. But I've just typed the VIN number in for the car. We're just going to work our way through the diagnostic process. So ignition is on, just now reading the vehicle data. Okay, so this then produces the control unit tree. Hopefully you can see that there. So what we're going to do in the bottom right hand corner, there's a system scan. So we just press that and that's going to work its way through each control module. So as you can see, the scan ones are in blue, normal are in green, abnormal red, not scanned or not equipped are grey. And as you can see, the engine control module, well hopefully you can see, but the engine control module there is showing as not equipped. So that's the sort of point we got to last time. Right, that's now scanned all of those. I'm just going to try and enter the engine control unit. So yeah, it just won't allow me to enter. Communication error with vehicle ECU. Please confirm whether the diagnostic connector is correctly connected. Ignition is on. Basically, if all other things are normal, send the VIN, etc, etc to TopDon. I'll have a bit more of a play with this tool, see if there's a way that I can somehow write to the ECU. So with this scan tool, it may well have the function to write to the ECU to pop in that VIN number, but I can't seem to find it on there. So I'm just going to fire up the other scan tool and see if that will allow me to. I'm now running the software, which is just going to work its way through and recode the engine ECU or the DDE module. As you can see, we've been working our way through and we've managed to program the engine control unit, and that was now showing some engine fault codes at the end of this session that we were working on this particular program. We've now closed down the session and I'm going to go back onto the TopDon scanner because I want to see if it will spot the engine ECU, and then what I want to look at doing is matching the engine ECU to the immobiliser. I'm not going to go through how I use this program because I'm certainly not an expert on it. I'm taking a massive risk by doing this because, as I say, I'm not completely educated with this software and this program, and I'm doing it at my own risk on an old car that I'm sort of trying to learn on. So it's trial by error. You know, I know that might frighten some people, and as I say, that's why I'm not looking to share what I'm doing with this particular program. There are plenty of guides and tutorials online when it comes to using some of this programming and such, but as I say, you're going to be doing so at your own risk. So the next thing I'm going to do is disconnect this now because we've ended this session, and we'll pop the TopDon back onto the vehicle. Aha! So we've now got a blue control unit along with all the others. So it's now seeing that and showing that it's scanned that, whereas it didn't do that before. As you can see here with the TCU, for some reason it's showing those as grey. We try and enter the engine control unit, and now that's let us enter the control unit, and it's also showing the correct VIN number. I'll read the fault codes, and as you can see, we now got the fault code. So we got EWS tampering, which is to do with the CAS module, and then all of the glow plugs. Right, so I'm just about to attempt the first start and I'm absolutely bricking it. This is by far the closest we've come to getting this to start. We weren't able to see the engine control unit earlier on, and we weren't able to match the immobiliser to meet the control unit or to see one another. So yeah, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. But if this thing starts, I'm going to be so pleased. Right, ignition's on. I'm just going to code read the car again and see if there's any other codes. So it's currently telling me that we've got no DTCs. So I'll just click on that at the top there. No diagnostic trouble codes. I will go into one of the control units. Nope. Message from car access system to body bus faulty receiver EGS transmission car access system. Right. Oh yes! It works! Yeah! It's alive! Julian is running! Oh my God! Yes! Oh my God! I didn't think it was going to go, and then all of a sudden it just went. Oh! Yes! I'm going to see if it moves. I'll see if it goes into gear. That's drive. It moves. Oh no, it's because the door's open. Hang on. You know what that is? Oh, today gets better, doesn't it? Hey, I've been looking for that for months. We found the original key. Oh, for Christ's sake.
It's on the wheel. You put it on the wheel.
Why did I put it on the wheel? Oh, I've hunted for this high and low. Everywhere. I've been everywhere for this. And it's on the wheel. Oh, I don't know. Why would I put it on the wheel? For Christ, it sounds all right, doesn't it?
It does.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, mate. I've got absolutely no idea. Well, we know it moves forward and we know it moves back. And we're losing the light, so I think we'll have a sort out and a tidy up. And I found the key. Well, you found the key. Thank you for that. Yeah. We're now back here with the BMW. It's been a few days since we managed to get the car started, and I still can't quite believe that we managed to do that. However, what we are going to do is get on with a load of other bits and pieces on this car, because we are by no means out of the woods yet. So I'll just turn the camera around, update you a little bit as to where we are. Now, where the car's been sat up for so long, it's obviously just corroded, and over time put so much pressure on the coil springs there that they've just broken. So hopefully you can see just at the bottom of the suspension strut there, the road spring is broken just down here, so we're going to need to replace that one. The same can be said for the other side, that's also broken, and it is good practice to replace them in pairs. And the drive shaft boot, if you can just make it out down in there, is all lovely and twisted and probably split, so I'm going to look at replacing that as well while I've got the struts out. It's probably going to be a bit easier to just replace that. And then if I take you round to the near side of the car, now we're at the near side. When I jacked this car up previously to pull one of the under trays off, because it was sort of half hanging off, I just reset the car back down, and this airbag spring in here now seems to be leaking. So I don't know whether I've displaced something or damaged the air spring. I only jacked the car up and put it back down, so I don't know if we've damaged something there, but we are going to need to look into that. We've got the pump running for the air suspension, and that's obviously just trying to fill this airbag, but hopefully, as you can hear, it is hissing away. So I'm going to get myself a bottle of water and just sort of squirt that over there and see if I can see where that leak is coming from, because as you can see, where it's shut down now, the airbag is just dropping straight back down, so it's not holding the pressure there. Just before I get absolutely smothered in CEV grease, I just thought I'd stop and show you where we got to. I've taken the caliper off and the disc because this back plate here was swinging in the breeze. These rot out over time, and I've just put some larger washers on that, so that's now nice and secure. I am going to need to replace the brake hoses probably all round on the car. It's probably a good idea to do that, because this one has got a split in it just here down to the inner part of the brake hose, so I'm going to need to replace that. I did decide to take these parts of this wishbone out, these bolts, sorry, because this one here, if any of you guys know, like the Audis, this basically welds itself in there. I forget the technical term for it, but there's no chance that thing's coming out. I did try and undo it, the nut does undo, but I thought rather than snap that off, I'll leave that as it is, undo these two here, and that's allowed me to just pull this arm or the hub, sorry, out of the way. There's the 3 bolts, or nuts, sorry, that hold this on up here. So I've taken those out, and then there's just 1 bolt that holds as like a fork that goes over the drive shaft and goes onto this bottom suspension arm here. And then that's given me good access as well to that tangled up CV boot. We've now got the spring swapped over on the strut. We've also managed to swap out the CV boot there. What I did was disconnected the old CV gator, pulled the drive shaft out and left the inner coupling on there, and then swap that boot over. I want to be able to move all of this stuff around and get that strut and assembly back in place. That's both the front coil springs now replaced on the front of the car. We are on the offside here. We did struggle quite a bit on this side. As I mentioned earlier in the video, these are normally a nightmare to get out, so I left that bolt well alone on this side, and I was able to access these two fairly easily. On the other side, that wasn't the case. This bolt here on the back was hidden underneath where the ECU box is, and then this one at the front, the nut on the inside here, was hidden underneath where the expansion bottle is, and I didn't want to have to disassemble all that stuff, and my patience was wearing slightly thin at this point because I'd struggled quite a lot trying to lift all of this in. So I took a chance, and that bolt actually undid on the other side, so I was able to get that bolt out. And I also took out the bolt on this side here for the fork leg and knocked that for the front strut here, and knocked that fork leg off, and that gave me a lot more movement to get that out. So that side actually turned out to be quite a lot easier than this side. And upon doing the offside here, I noticed that the brake hose has got a split in it, so I'm back to put a brake hose on here. So we get that on, bleed that brake out, and then we can put that wheel back on. And then once we've done that, we can turn our attention to that airbag on the near side rear. Now at the back here, replacing the airbag. And what we need to do is we need to unclip the bottom of the airbag and then twist the airbag 90 degrees, and that should just pop out. And then we need to undo the air hose or the airline connection to the top of it, and I'll show you that on the new one. So these are the two. Basically this sits that way up like that. So on the bottom here, we need to push in these two tabs here and here to pop that out. And then in the top, you've got these little locking pieces, so it twists. And that's what holds it in place. And then you've got the airline connector just there. So that is just all that lot untucked now. Just gonna remove that air hose and then put the air hose onto the new one, and just put that back in the same way. I've taken the fitting back off, slid that pipe through this rubber protective boot, slid those fittings back on, and then I just chop the end of the pipe off as it recommends, just to give you a nice clean pipe on the end there, so that when you do that up you don't get any leaks. And we just used Stanley knife for that. If you do use like side cutters or something like that, you do risk crushing the pipe, so I've just used a Stanley blade for that. That's all now tight, so we can tuck that back in and then put the bottom section back into place as well. Using the trolley jack to push the suspension up while it's on the axle stand down here has just allowed me to then clip the bottom part of the airbag into that suspension arm there, just so that when we do inflate the airbag we don't run the risk of damaging it. I've now got the car running, and bit by bit I've just let the trolley jack down so that the car will come down without putting too much pressure onto the airbag. And then what that allows the car to do is work out where the height of the vehicle is, and it starts putting the suspension compressor on and just puts itself into position there. So I'm going to stick my head in and around the wheel arch underneath, see if I can hear any leaks, make sure that that suspension airbag is looking the same as the other side. Here is the old one itself, and you can just see where it's sat for so long, it's just worn all the airbag out here, and it's probably leaking around here somewhere. So now that we've managed to get this thing running and we've managed to sort the suspension, as all good mechanics should do, we're going to need to take it for a drive. Oh, we're stuck. There we go, we're on the move now. Oh! Sliding about like a good one there. So that's it for today's episode, guys. We finally managed to get this thing running, and I am having far too much fun with this thing now. So I'm going to leave this video here. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.